Today we're going to set up the RØDECaster video to run Lily's livestream, which is a relatively simple one-person show. Hi, I'm Aaron Parecki. Before we get started, I do want to thank Rode for sending the RØDECaster out to share with you on this channel. So before we get started to set up the RØDECaster itself, I want to first give you a quick overview of what exactly is going on the screen behind me. This is the multi-view of the RØDECaster, and I've actually got a recording of Lily's livestream being played back into this. I actually have a separate video which is a full walkthrough of the existing YouTube studio we have set up for Lily's show. So I'll leave a link to that down below in case you're curious. So let me give you a quick rundown of how Lily's stream works. So in Lily's livestream, she has one main camera for her main shot. She's got an overhead camera for showing a donut or planters. And then there's usually a camera on the cats just to be able to watch the cats as they're eating dinner. And then this is actually an Apple TV over here. This is so that she can wirelessly share content from an iPad into the stream. What I did is I actually, during her last live stream, I recorded all 4 angles of her show and I've stitched them together into this 4K video. And this is actually now being played back through a player and split back out into individual inputs so that I can bring it into the RØDECaster in 4 different inputs. So if I just go ahead and scrub through this, you can see this is a recording. Sometimes some of the cameras turned off, but eventually she uses all the cameras and there should be like some planner overhead shots in here somewhere. And we've got like showing off the donut of the week and that kind of thing. So this is a recording of her last live stream. And this is just so I can have a simulation of what it is I'm going to be doing in the RØDECaster so that I get some actual real video that isn't just me in here. Some of what I'll be doing, I'll be setting up on the RØDECaster itself, but other things will require the Rode Central app on the computer in order to configure some of the more advanced things. So now I'm actually going to go ahead and reset this back to the default state. That way we'll build this up step by step and I'll show you everything along the way. So this is now restored to its default state. All I've done so far is plugged in video and audio inputs and outputs. So I've got 4 cameras and 1 computer screen actually. So this is her main camera. This is the top-down camera. This is the cat camera. Over on input 5, I have the Apple TV. And this is actually being brought in through a cam link. This is because I needed a 5th HDMI input for this. So I'm just using a USB capture card to plug into one of the USB ports like it's a webcam. The RØDECaster can support 4 HDMI sources and 2 USB webcams. So I'm using one of the, quote, webcams as a USB capture card here. That way I get a 5th HDMI input. This camera 4, this is actually for the chat system. Now this is a output from OBS. I have a separate video in which I talk about how to configure OBS to do these kinds of graphics with chat overlays. So this is in OBS, it's set up as a green background with the web page that is doing the chat overlay. And that way I can chroma key this out later. And that's in input 4. Already right off the bat, we've got simple camera switching working. I can press, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons and we'll change what's in the program. But now I've got a bunch of layouts to create and I also want to add some graphics. So let's first see what we can do with the RØDECaster itself, and then I'll go into Rode Central on the computer to do some of the more advanced settings. So first, to create a layout, I'm going to go click on this button here with the little picture-in-picture icon. This is going to go into multi-source mode, and this is where we can add picture-in-picture layouts. Now, I actually first want to do the side-by-side layouts. I like to have, for her stream, I like to have different layouts where it's her camera cropped next to the overhead camera and then also next to the iPad. Possibly also one with the cats. And then we can also do a variation of those with picture-in-picture. So let's go ahead and first set this up. This icon is showing us what type of layout this is. And if you actually swipe on it, you can go into this other mode where you choose the other layouts. We can also use this control knob to select between these and get these different layout options. I'm going to scroll until I get to this one that is side by side. Now these are just default layouts. You can customize these later, but you have to go into the computer to do that. So for this, we can now choose what camera do we want in box A and what camera do we want in box B. Camera A is the larger one here, so I'm actually going to look at the multi-view here and see which one we want in the larger. Let's go ahead and do the overhead first. So I'll just push camera 2, and now on the menu you can see that camera 2 is selected for A. I will scroll down here to box B, and I'm going to tap on camera 1. We can also choose a background, and for this I do want a background because this is not particularly nice just on a black background, but I haven't loaded any graphics in yet, so there's no way for me to choose a background yet. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this and we'll go over to the computer to do the rest of the configuration. So if I tap on the little check mark here, that's going to create the scene. You might notice that it said it isn't actually saved, and these scene buttons are still empty. and as are the scene icons here. So if I wanted to save this layout, I have to hold down the letter A for 2 seconds, and then it'll pop in there, and now that scene is saved. So now let's pop over to the computer, because now we're going to go and do some of the more advanced settings and upload graphics for this. So I've downloaded the Rode Central app, and now I can go ahead and click on the RØDECaster video, and we get into the configuration for it here. So I'm going to first go into Scene Builder, and this is where we'll be able to create and customize these scenes. So I already have a micro SD card in the RØDECaster, and this is where I've already loaded some graphics. The graphics that I've loaded are things like a background image with the tile background. I've got a logo here. I've got a video clip here with a little animation, which we can use. And I might add this overlay. Livestream will be in soon. We may or may not use this. We'll see. So what I can do now is click on Add Media, and we're going to go ahead and just click on the background, 1920 by 1080. It does need to be that size. And now it's loaded here and ready to use. So now, as I'm over here in the little background section for this layout, I can choose this. And actually now media is not selected because I forgot one step. Aside from loading it into the media library, I need to actually load it into the media player in the RØDECaster. So I'm going to click on the media button, and this now turns into media slots. And if we look at the physical RØDECaster, it's doing the same thing. So here, right now in the default mode, these buttons correspond to scenes. These icons correspond to scenes. If I press on the media button here, now these buttons correspond to media slots, which are, well, there are 7 media slots and they're all empty right now. So back on the computer, I can now actually just drag this background onto one of the media slots. I'm going to put it over in G because I'm never going to switch this as an angle, so I want it kind of just out of the way. So this is now loaded in slot G. So if I go out of the media back into scene A, now I can actually go and click on this background here. Media is available, and I can choose this because it's loaded into slot G. And now we got the nice background for this. Other tweaks I'm going to make here, I don't want the borders. I don't really like them very much. And then I do want to resize these. So in order to resize these, I have to actually get out of the default layout. So if I click on this icon for the layout, now that it's in scene A, I can actually click on custom, which is going to let me customize all the different parts of the scene. So camera 2, I first want to make this bigger. I want this to go all the way like that and much larger, like maybe like that. And then I'll just move it close to the center. For camera 1, I want to actually crop this and also make it bigger. So we're going to first make it bigger, scoot it over there. We're going to crop in on that side, crop in on that side, and put it about there or so. You can also drag these to reorder them. If I want this below, I can put it below or put it on top. I think it's kind of cute on top. And we'll go ahead and center that as well. Maybe crop that in a little bit. Okay, so this is now saved as A because I've been editing slot A this whole time. So back on the RØDECaster, I can now change between the main camera, the overhead camera, and now also scene A, which is the side-by-side with the nice background. So let's go and make side-by-side layouts for the other angles as well. I mentioned I wanted to make one for the cat camera, which is in camera 3, and also one for the iPad. She's not actually using the iPad at this exact moment, so it's just a little slideshow, but once she screen shares an iPad, it'll show up in that slot. So what I can do, the quickest way to do this is to go to the scene that I want to use as the template. Now that that's active, if I long press on B, it's going to just save a copy of it in slot B. So now in here, I've got B active, and now I can just go ahead and change camera 2, click over here, change this input to input 3. So now I've got the side-by-side of the cat cam with her picture. Let's do it one more time in scene C. So I'm going to first hold down on the button C for 2 seconds, and then we're going to go back into the computer, click on scene C, and we can change this camera to be camera, where did I bring the iPad in? Camera 5. Let me go ahead and fast forward this video really quick to get to a spot where she's actually using the iPad so we can frame this up right. I think it was actually in the earlier part of the video. So as she's using the iPad, one of the interesting things is, so the Apple TV screen is 1920 by 1080 because it's plugged into the RØDECaster, but the iPad screen is not 16:9 aspect ratio. So we have these black bars on the side, but this is actually really easy to fix because we can just crop this in. Since I know that I'm going to be, this scene is for her iPad, which is typically going to be just doing screen sharing, I know that it's always going to have these black bars on the side. So I can crop this in so we get rid of the black bars on both sides. Let me double check on the actual screen because the little borders kind of hide it a little bit. I still see a little bit of a black line there, so I'm just going to drag it in on the computer a little bit more. Great. Now I don't see any black borders. And then I want to scale this back up because I actually want to make it easier to see what's on her iPad. We can go maybe not all the way up. Maybe we want to have a little bit of a border around the edge of it. That looks pretty good. And this is, we've been editing scene C, so this is already saved in C. So now I can go ahead and change between her main angle and the different scenes, and it's gonna get back to those nice layouts every time. Okay, so now let's make a couple of picture-in-picture scenes. So I can start by clicking on the picture-in-picture button. We see multi-source, and then we've got the picture-in-picture layouts. This one's fine for now, so I'm gonna go ahead and choose camera A, which is going to be the overhead, and then camera B, which is going to be the main camera. Scene created, hold empty slot to save. So I'll go ahead and hold down on D and we'll save it in slot D. So now back on the computer, we can go and edit this scene. Again, I don't want the borders. I don't really like them. Maybe if I change the color, I'll like it better. Maybe we can make it a color that's closer to her branding. Maybe this teal. We'll try that. But again, I do want to customize it because I don't want it to be the full rectangle. So I can just click here, go to custom. And now in here, I can actually drag these corners in again. So, okay, this isn't a terribly interesting part of this video. Let me fast forward the video and we'll get to part of the video where she's using the top-down camera. So it looks like she's kind of leaning in on this. So maybe I do want to go a little bit out like that. And then we'll put this up in the corner. And now we've got that layout created. Okay, so if I wanted to do the same thing for using the iPad, we can just hold down on the E button for 2 seconds to save it, a copy of this in slot E. And then back in the computer, we'll be able to edit slot E to change which camera's in the background. In which case, this time I'm going to go and put in camera 5. So camera 5 now has screen sharing from her iPad, so we can go ahead and put that there. This one, maybe I want to move camera 1 a little bit because let's crop it in because she's usually sitting farther away from the iPad when she's using it. And maybe we'll put it in the other side, or is that, it looks better over here. Okay, great. And that's scene E. So now back on the RØDECaster, we've got the different inputs full screen. We've got the scenes here, and we now also have the picture-in-picture scenes. Okay, so far so good. This is looking pretty good. Couple things missing still. We need a way for her to play this video clip, which introduces the donut of the week. So that's a quick little 4-second video that's created. Normally she plays it back from a hyperdeck, which is plugged into the ATEM. But now we can actually just load it directly into the RØDECaster and play back from the internal memory. So in order to load this clip, I need to go back to the software control. And we're going to go ahead and add media and click on this Talking Doe MP4 file. It does need to be an H.264 format. It doesn't support H.265 videos right now. So it's going to upload this to the SD card, and now it's ready to use in one of the media slots. So I can click on the media slot, and we'll put it in slot A. So I'll just go ahead and drag it to slot A. And this, we do want it to play only once. We don't want it on a loop. So now as soon as you tap the A button, it's going to play this video clip out. And it does pause at the end. It doesn't auto switch back, so we have to manually switch away from it at the end of the video. We'll see if maybe a firmware update can fix that. I think it would be a useful feature to be able to automatically switch back to one of the cameras when a video clip is done. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. The next thing we need is to be able to show the chat messages. So if I show you input 4 here, input 4 is this green screen with the chat messages over it. This is also actually where the countdown timer plays from. It's a web graphics source. So we'll be able to bring both in this way. So the way this works, it's a little bit different than other video switchers. So this takes a minute to kind of get your head around. Basically, the way it works is the way that keying works in the RØDECaster is that each of your video sources can have its own key applied directly to the video on its way into the switcher, essentially. So right now you can see we have this green background, which I'm never going to want to show on a stream. So what I can do is I can configure the keying options for input 4. So if I press on the little key icon here, this is bringing up the keying menu. So I can choose select fill. I can choose green or blue screening. I'm going to choose green, and then I do want it to be transparent. And it actually just did that all by default without me doing anything else. It's already now keying it out. So you can see, as far as the input is concerned, it doesn't even think there's a green video there. So when I switch to it like a camera angle, it's actually got a black background now. It's actually transparent, but it's showing up as black because there's nothing underneath it, which isn't terribly useful to switch to, although this is actually better than showing a bright green thing on the screen. but I'm never going to switch this angle. Instead, what I want to do is I need to use this in a layout. Now, this is another feature request that I have for the RØDECaster. There is an overlays feature, and the overlays feature is what lets you do things like add media in the corner, like logos and graphic overlays. However, there is no way to use a video source as an overlay source right now. Again, we'll see if they change that in a firmware update. I'm hoping they can. So in the meantime, what I have to do is actually create a new scene as a picture-in-picture where the camera 4 is actually overlaid on top. So we can actually just add it to any of the existing scenes, since she'll probably always want to be able to show chat messages regardless of the scene that she's in. So let's tap on A and go back to the computer. So I can actually now, over here, just add a new layer. And this layer is going to be camera 4, which is where that chat is. And because input 4 is already chroma keyed on the way in, it just works. And because I added it by editing an existing scene, it's actually full screen already. I could scale it down if you, for some reason, are using a web graphics source that doesn't assume a 1920 by 1080 canvas. You can scale it down if you want, but I want it to be full screen because I already have the web page showing the chat down here. So this now applies to scene A. The one downside of doing the chat overlays this way is that I have to actually add it to each scene individually, because now there's no chat message. So for scene B, I have to go edit that scene as well to add the input 5 on top. So we'll go ahead and add input 5. Oops, sorry, input 4. And then we'll do the same thing for C. We'll go ahead and choose input 4 here, and now we've got chat there. We'll do the same for scene D. Add input 4, and the same for E. Now you might notice that means that there is no way to get chat messages on top of just a full camera, because the cameras aren't scenes. They're just inputs, individual inputs. So if I do want to be able to show chat on either this angle or the top down that isn't scene D with her camera in the corner, I actually have to create a scene for that. So I can use one of these last slots to do that. So for example, I can just hold down here. It's going to create a scene with just her full camera. And then I can go to the computer and edit that. So editing scene F, I can now add a layer, which is going to be input 4. Now that probably is a little bit weird because we have a full screen, full camera one over here, full camera one over here. So I probably actually want to swap those. I can't swap, but I can move. So what I can do is first take scene A, reassign it to G because that was empty. Then take scene F, reassign it over there. And now we're getting a little bit better to a more logical arrangement for these. I probably actually want to shift these all over. Not sure what's going to be the best way for her to keep track of them. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the cat one over to F. So we're going to go click on the one with the cat, reassign it to F. And I'm going to make B and C be the iPad scenes. So the iPad scene is in E right now, so I can just move that over to B. And now I can move the overhead camera, which is in G. I can move that over to E. Great. So now if you look at the layouts, we've got main camera with chat. We've got B is the iPad with a camera in the corner. C is the iPad, but now side by side with chat again. D is the overhead camera with the camera in the corner. E is the side-by-side. And then F is the cat, which is probably the least often used. And I have one more scene left, which I'll save in case I figure out something else I need to add later. Like, actually, the countdown timer for her intro. We're going to have to do it that way. So let's go ahead and start with... start with the media. So in the media, if I tap on this, we'll go into the media mode, and I actually need to make a new slot. So this, again, I have to go back to the computer for this. So I'm going to add another media, which is the title card of her live stream. So for the countdown, we just want to have the logo. I'll put that over here. And I want the logo, but I want the countdown timer on top of it. So let me go into the web graphics and start the countdown timer and get rid of the chat. Okay, so now the web source in input 4 is now showing us the little countdown timer, so I can cut to that and show you it full screen. So now what we can do is put that on top of the logo. So I go back into the media here and tap on F, which is the full screen logo screen. Now I can use that and put it on top of this. Now, in order to do that, I'm going to first go and, because I have this in the program feed, I can long press on G and it's going to save it as a new scene. So now we have scene G, which is so far just the graphic. Now I can pop back over to the computer to do the rest. And I'm going to go ahead and change the input of this to camera 4, which is the graphics. Now the countdown timer is not quite in the right spot. That's my fault for not making this graphic quite right, but it's an easy fix here. I can just crop this down so I can scoot it up a little bit. And now the countdown timer appears between the logo and the little website at the bottom. So this is now scene G. If I go back here, you can see I can go between any of the other scenes, the camera, and now I have a scene created for the countdown. The last thing I want to do here, which I probably actually should have done first, is I want to name all the scenes and the camera sources. So back in the computer, notice how when I choose one of these sources, it has these names. I can actually go ahead and rename these camera sources, and it would have been helpful to do that earlier so that all the configuration of the scenes was easier. But I can go ahead and do this now, so I'm just going to give these nice names. Okay, and then I can also name the scenes. So we're going to call this main with chat. Okay, so now that those are all created, if we take a look at the multi-view, we can actually see these have nice names now. I'll show you that full screen so you can see it. Now we've got names that actually make sense for this, so it's a lot easier to manage both while looking at the screen, but also when we're looking at the configuration here. Now if I go and I'm editing this scene and I want to change what camera angle is there, I can actually use the nicer names here now. So now that we're all configured and ready to actually start the show, I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this countdown to 5 seconds left. We can see we've got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm getting ready to cut to the main camera, and now we're live. So now she can do her show, cut different camera angles, show the chat message on the screen as long as one of the scenes is selected, and we're good. So that is it for the video. Now I want to talk about the audio routing. And this is again something that the RØDECaster video is really good at. So let's go out of the scene builder here and into the audio mixer. So totally separate screen here for the audio mixer. And this is where we can choose what audio we want to bring into the stream and the recording, as well as even the headphone output, as well as the speaker output. And this is something that we haven't been able to do for Lillystream in the past because I don't have a full audio mixer there, and the ATEM has been running the audio for her stream in the past. But now, because we have a full audio mixer built into the RØDECaster video, I can actually do some pretty cool things. So first, I actually want to configure what audio sources are showing up here. I don't need all of these to start out with. So as far as audio goes, the sources that we're going to have are the main microphone that she uses, which is sitting just above her camera there, just out of the frame. It's an overhead microphone. That's a analog XLR microphone going into an audio device right now. So we're going to keep that XLR microphone there and run it directly into the XLR input on the RØDECaster. Other audio sources, there's actually audio on this video clip. So if I play this video clip, you'll hear that it actually has some audio. And I want to be able to bring that into the stream, of course. The other audio is actually in the chat input only when it's doing the countdown. I'm going to start the countdown timer again so we have some audio coming into this channel just so that we can see the audio meters once we get it all configured. This is a 10-minute countdown timer with background music, and that's what she would start before she goes live. We do have the option of bringing audio in from the iPad. I would say it's not a terribly common thing that she does, but sometimes she wants to play back video clips, so we will set it up for that as well. So the first thing we need to do is actually change what audio sources are enabled on the RØDECaster. There's two ways to do this. I can do it on the RØDECaster itself, and I can also do it in the software. I'll first show you doing it in the RØDECasters because it's actually not too bad doing it this way. So back looking at the RØDECaster video, if I tap on this little icon down here, this gets us into the audio menu. This you can use to configure the levels of everything, but if you scroll all the way to the left and go to this screen, you can add or remove channels. This will tell us which of the actual audio sources are enabled in the audio mix. So for this, I do want combo 1, which is where my XLR microphone is plugged in. I don't need combo 2, so I'll take it out. I don't need the wireless ones. I do want video clips. I don't need sounds. And then I do want the HDMI 4, which is where the graphics are coming in. So I'll turn that one on. I'll leave Bluetooth on, even though we're not going to necessarily use it, but it's handy to be able to bring in audio from a phone or something. And then I don't need audio from USB 1 or chat or USB 2 or any of the other USBs actually. So now that those are configured, I can just press the home, and if you look back at the RØDECaster itself, we can see there's only 4 audio meters here, which is nice because it's a lot less visual clutter, so it's easier to see what audio is actually active. So I'll go back to the computer and I'll show you how to do it there now as well. If we are in the audio tab in the software, this is where we can remove any of the sources we don't need, and we can also go ahead and add sources this way. So let's say I added in the, let's say wireless 2. This will let me pair a wireless mic with it, which I don't need now, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete it here. So the other thing you can do in the computer, which is a lot faster, is configuring all the different submixes. So live mix is what's going to be recorded and streamed. Actually just streamed because the recording has its own mix. So this is what's going to go out the main. This is sort of like the main mix for the whole thing. For this, we can choose which of the 4 sources and their relative audio levels. So for this, I do want the microphone on full. I maybe want to drop this countdown music a little bit, so I'll drop it down by 3. The video clips, probably I don't want them full blast because sometimes you want to be able to talk over the clips. It's really just this talking to animation that's in this now, so it might be okay. Maybe I'll move it back up to just -3. Bluetooth, if you do have a phone paired for phone calls, probably want that at full volume. So this is the live mix, and this is sort of, again, it's like the default mix. But the really cool thing about the RØDECaster is you get all these other mixes you can create. There's lots of different audio mixes, submixes you can create. So for example, headphones. Some people don't like to hear themselves in the headphones if they're also talking through the microphone. It is very much a personal preference. So I found that people have very different opinions about whether they want to hear themselves or not. Some people want the confidence of knowing that their levels are okay. Some people don't like hearing their own voice, even if it's not delayed. So this is where you can choose that. Right now it's default. It defaults to the live mix. So that's just so you know you're listening to exactly what's going out on the stream. But if you wanted to, you could go into custom, and then you could, for example, turn off combo 1 so you don't hear your own microphone. There's a second headphone port as well, which I'm not using right now. Monitor is very cool. So there are 2 jacks on the back of the RØDECaster for 1/4-inch outputs, and this I've actually got running into speakers in the room. So this is letting me create a mix in the room that is different from what's going on to the stream. So if it were live mix, I would be hearing the countdown music right now and also my microphone, neither of which is good. So I'm going to make a custom mix, and I'm actually going to turn off the microphone so that my mic that's in the room doesn't feed back into speakers and back into the microphone. I do want to hear the video clips that get played back, but I want them on lower volume. And I do want to hear the countdown music, which is here, but I want it at much lower volume. So I'll drop that down. That way it's just faint in the background, probably not picking it up in the microphone that you're listening to me from. But that way I can hear a little bit that there's the music running. And that way when Lily's doing the countdown timer for the stream, she can actually hear the music and knows when the stream is going to start by listening to it, not just looking at the clock. So you can adjust this based on, how sensitive your microphone is and how loud your speakers are. The other mix worth talking about is the recording mix. Again, you probably want to record your live mix, but you can change it if you want to record something different. And if you do have any Bluetooth device, like a phone paired, by default, it'll actually switch to mix minus mode, which makes sense. It's sending everything to your Bluetooth device except whatever the Bluetooth device is sending back. So if you have a phone call with somebody and you want to record the phone call, you don't want to send their audio back into the phone system. So by default, mix minus makes sense. You can customize it if for some reason you know what you're doing and you need to send the audio back through Bluetooth. You can do that and you can turn it back on. But mix minus is probably what you want. That same principle applies to the USB ports. If you have this plugged into your computer, you can actually use it as an audio interface in your computer. And you can also set mix minus in case you're sending your computer audio back into this, both directions. For example, if you're recording a video call or bringing in a guest via a video. So you have these options as well. I am not using the USB outputs for this stream because she's just going live, sometimes recording. But if I did ever have this plugged into her computer, then we can actually go ahead and make a separate audio mix for that. Okay, so now that the audio is configured, we're ready to start the stream. Now, you may have noticed that there is one thing kind of missing from this setup, and that is that there is only one audio mix in the device, and it's really just fixed. I'm hoping that this will be possible for them to ship in a firmware update. There's a kind of important feature that I want them to add, and that has to do with tying audio sources to scenes. So for example, I have this countdown timer, and for the countdown timer, when this is on the screen, this is before the show starts. So I actually don't want the main microphone to be on live while this countdown scene is on. But as soon as we switch away into one of the other main scenes or any of the cameras, I do want the main microphone turned on. Now, you can do this manually if you go into this menu and, toggle the mute status of the microphone, but you can tell it's kind of slow to do it here manually. I have to go and, dial the fader down. So I could go into the computer app and do it that way. That's definitely faster. I can go to the audio mixer here. If I'm in my live mix, I can just, go ahead and mute this. I can just mute the microphone with the one button here, but it does mean I have to go into the computer to do that. So really what I want to be able to assign audio sources, the mute status of audio sources, to different scenes. And that way I can make this scene G have the main microphone muted, but everything else turned on. So I'm hoping that'll come in a firmware update, and I have asked Rode for this, so we'll see if they can do it. So that was a lot of work on the setup, but actually now that it's done, it's actually relatively easy to use. Again, your main row of buttons down here are just simple camera switching, and then the row of buttons up here is for all the different scenes that we've created with the picture-in-picture and side-by-side layouts, including the background. So actually using this is just pushing these main buttons. If you do want to play back the video clip, you first go into this media menu, and then you can choose any of the still graphics or video clips that you've loaded into the media player. So this will go ahead and play the little video clip with the audio as well, and then we can switch back to the main camera here. The last thing I want to talk about is adding graphic overlays. There are a couple of overlays that Lily uses in her stream, and we can add those pretty simply now. So I'm going to go back into the computer to do this where I can actually upload media. So I'm going to go back into the scene builder, and we're going to go ahead and first start by just adding the images. So I've just done an export from the ATEM, and this is one of the images here, the Budgetober graphic, which looks like this. So I can actually just drag from the Finder over here, and that's going to load in the graphic. We also have donuts, which are for the donut ratings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5, and 5. So I can drag these in. The other graphic that she uses is advertising the forum. So we'll go ahead and drag that in. And was there anything else? I think, oh, Personal Finance Society. That's the other one. Okay, so now these are all queued up. We can assign them to buttons. So I'll click on the overlays here, and we've got 7 slots, which is actually possibly not enough because of all the donut ratings. So we'll see. Let's start by adding the forum banner to A. Now that's loaded up in slot A. Let's add the Personal Finance Society in B, and we have 5 slots left. I'm going to leave Budgetober out, and we'll just put that in when she needs it, and then I'm going to use the rest for the donut ratings. So 1 star donut, 2 donuts, 3 donuts. I guess we'll leave out the half donut, 4, and 5. So now that those are all loaded up, if we go look at what we've got on the RØDECaster, so back on the main screen, this is the scenes. And if I tap on the overlay button, this row changes to all the graphic overlays that are loaded. So I can go ahead and tap A, and that'll put the forum overlay. This will put the Personal Finance Society overlay. And then we've got the donut ratings here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I wonder if I can rename these because these are confusing because of the little numbers here. I think I can. So if I go back to, I guess I can't rename it there, but I can rename here, which is what's going to show in the multi-view anyway. So 5 donuts. This is going to be 4 donuts. Yeah, this is working great. This is 3 donuts. This is 2 donuts. Personal finance. And then this one is forum. Great. So now if we look at the multi-view, we've got the nice labels here, so I can very easily change the donuts, change the different banners, and we can actually see what they're called now thanks to the little labels that are showing up there. Great. So operationally now, camera angle switching, scene switching, media playback up here, overlays here, and the audio mix is just set, so it's all ready to go. To actually go live and record, you can press the big button in the corner here. I have a USB drive plugged in, so this will just start recording. I guess we need to configure stream keys as the very last step. So that is one other thing we have to do back in the app. Under stream profiles, this is where we can change, add stream keys. So I'll go ahead and add a profile here, and we'll call this Lily YouTube. And then I need to go to YouTube to find the server and the stream key. I'm just gonna go ahead and do this to a private YouTube stream on my account right now, but this gives me the RTMP URL and the stream key. So I can go ahead and copy that over to the server, and then I can copy the stream key over here as well. Save that. And now we've got a streaming profile created. So now that that's set, the little button on the RØDECaster, or a little light on the RØDECaster for the stream icon is now lit up. So I can see I got a hard drive plugged in. I can see that I've got streaming configured. So when I'm ready to go live, I can actually tap on this little icon here, and we can choose live stream, start streaming to YouTube, and there it goes. This icon turned red, and if I also want to record, I can tap that button and that'll start the recording. And that's it. That's the complete setup for the RØDECaster video. This is now ready to go. We've got the multi-view on a monitor for her to use, and this can run the entire stream. Everything is just built into this one little box. The only accessory we used here, aside from, of course, a microphone, is the Apple TV in order to bring in video from an iPad wirelessly. So the Apple TV is plugged into this capture card. That way it shows up as input 5. But other than that, everything else is just camera angles, and everything is built into the device. I hope this video has been helpful. And again, thanks to Rode for sending out the RØDECaster for me to share with you on the channel. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.